A multi-million-dollar client insisted on communicating only with male colleagues for 6 months, despite me being the only expert on the project. I let him, then set up the final pitch meeting where he was forced to address his $5 million proposal to my empty chair, costing him the deal and exposing his sexism to his own corporate team. My name is Ella, and I am the Director of Strategic Logistics at a large consulting firm. My job involves designing and implementing the massive, proprietary supply chain solutions that keep global corporations running. When we land a project, I am the expert, the architect. I lead the teams, I write the proposals, and I close the deals. Our biggest target for the quarter was the account of Global Tech, a massive electronics manufacturer. The potential contract was valued at over $5 million and would secure our division's budget for the next 2 years. The main point of contact was the VP of Operations, a man named Mr. Sterling. Mr. Sterling was a relic. He was old money, old school, and oozed the kind of casual, paternalistic sexism that is far more corrosive than outright hostility. I met him for the initial exploratory lunch, where I detailed my 15 years of experience and our firm's track record. He spent the entire meal directing his questions to my male associate, Tom, a junior systems analyst who had only been with the firm for 6 months. When I would interject with a specific, technical solution, the kind of insight that secured the deal, Sterling would nod vaguely, then immediately pivot back to Tom and say, "So, Tom, how would your team handle that?" I brought it up with my own CEO immediately. He was sympathetic but pragmatic. "Ella," he said, "he's an old guard. He's worth $5 million to us. Just navigate around it. Use Tom as a shield." I wasn't going to navigate around it. I was going to use his prejudice as a weapon. The contract required 6 months of meticulous, personalized consulting to determine Global Tech's exact needs. This meant weekly meetings, dozens of emails, and numerous high-level strategy sessions. I made a calculated decision: I would become a ghost. I took my CEO's advice and reversed it. I didn't use Tom as a shield, I used Tom as a proxy. Every single email, every strategy document, and every presentation slide was written by me, Ella. I did all the research, built all the models, and crafted every piece of persuasive language. But the communication chain was strictly controlled. I would write the email. Tom would send the email from his account. Mr. Sterling would respond to Tom. Tom would forward the response to me. For 6 months, Mr. Sterling built a relationship entirely with Tom, based on the flawless, expert work I was doing behind the scenes. He referred to Tom as a sharp young man and praised his leadership in logistics. Tom, a good kid but clearly uncomfortable, knew he was merely relaying my genius. He looked increasingly awkward, but I reassured him that this was part of the final strategy. During group calls, I would be on mute, whispering instructions and strategy to Tom, who would then parrot the technical brilliance to Sterling. Sterling ate it up. He was comfortable. He felt validated that he had found a capable male leader for the project. Meanwhile, this forced, invisible role was agonizing. When Sterling's team once sent over a simple, flawed data sheet, I couldn't correct it directly. I had to coach Tom on how to gently inform the client that his data was wrong. Every success was credited to a man who didn't earn it. Every time my name was mentioned, Sterling would simply wave it away and say, "Well, Tom is handling the big picture." The arrogance was almost painful. But my silence was strategic. Every email he sent to Tom, every compliment, and every piece of information that bypassed me was being logged. I was building a case against him, not for HR, but for the boardroom. My patience was solely focused on the final pitch meeting. This was the culminating event where Global Tech's CEO and board would meet with our lead project manager to review the final $5 million proposal and sign the contract. Mr. Sterling's boss, the CEO of Global Tech, would be in attendance. My CEO initially insisted that Tom do the final presentation to avoid any friction. I pushed back hard. The final technical Q&A, where they commit $5 million, requires the architect. Tom can read the slides, I wrote the solutions. If we want this deal, I have to be in the room. The CEO, understanding the risk, reluctantly agreed, provided I kept my presence minimal. I was okay with minimal. My preparation for that meeting was a masterpiece of control. First, I crafted the presentation itself. It was visually stunning, but every single slide, every data point, and every projected cost saving was predicated on my proprietary models. Without me, the slides were meaningless numbers. Second, I coached Tom. Tom was to present the first half, the general overview. When it came to the technical solutions, he was to introduce the architect of the solution, but he was to do so with a deliberate ambiguity that emphasized the role, not the person. Third, the seating arrangement. I arranged the conference room in advance. The room had 8 chairs around a large table. I placed my name card at the head of the table, directly across from Global Tech's CEO. I then subtly moved my chair 3 feet away from the table, positioned so my empty seat was directly facing Mr. Sterling. The room filled. Global Tech's CEO, Mr. Sterling, 2 other male executives, Tom, my CEO, and a few observers. I entered last, gave a brief, professional nod, and took my seat. My name card was directly in front of Sterling. Sterling, predictably, did not make eye contact. He offered me a vague, patronizing greeting, "Good to see you here, Ella." The meeting began. Tom gave his part of the presentation flawlessly, handing off the ball right at the technical pivot point. Tom, and for the deep dive into the logistics models, I'd like to hand the floor to the individual who designed the entire solution architecture, our Director of Strategic Logistics. He didn't say my name. He looked directly at me. I stood up and nodded, taking the remote. The entire Global Tech team turned to me, but Sterling, deeply uncomfortable, visibly avoided eye contact. I delivered the next 15 minutes of the most brilliant, high-level technical explanation of my career. I fielded questions from the Global Tech CEO and the other executives with precision and confidence. The room was buzzing with the quality of the solution. But every time Mr. Sterling wanted to challenge a point, he turned not to me, the person speaking, but to the closest male figure, my empty chair. I was standing 3 feet away, holding the clicker. The empty chair, with my name card on it, was directly in front of him. Emma Sterling, directed to the empty chair, "Tom, this model assumes a 20% reduction in dock-to-shelf time. How can you guarantee that number in a union environment?" Me, answering the question, my voice calm, "Sir, that 20% is guaranteed because our solution bypasses the legacy union choke points by rerouting low-volume shipments directly to internal staging units, as detailed on slide 42. Sterling's face reddened. He glanced quickly at the chair, then back to Tom, who was sitting 2 seats away, mouth agape. Emma Sterling, directed to the empty chair, and the projected $500,000 hardware investment. "Does your team feel that's justified?" This continued for 10 minutes. The Global Tech CEO, a sharp woman, wasn't missing this. She watched Sterling address the chair every single time I opened my mouth. The other executives began exchanging subtle, knowing glances. The arrogance of his sexism had rendered him literally blind to the person presenting the deal. Finally, I closed the presentation. The CEO of Global Tech cleared her throat. "Global Tech CEO, the solution is brilliant, Ella. Thank you." She then turned her full attention to Mr. Sterling. "Mr. Sterling, you've stated repeatedly over the last 6 months that your primary point of contact was Mr. Tom, and that he was the one leading this. Is it accurate that all technical and strategic correspondence regarding this $5 million proposal was actually generated by Ms. Ella? Sterling stammered, his face a mask of humiliation. Well, yes, but Tom. Global Tech CEO, thank you. I think we have everything we need. The meeting ended abruptly. We received the contract 48 hours later. I got my commission, and my CEO, deeply impressed and a little ashamed, gave me a massive bonus. Mr. Sterling, however, was later investigated for a failure to fully vet the proposal and was sidelined from future high-level deals. He didn't lose his job, but he lost his authority, and worse, he lost the respect of his own CEO. I never got an apology. But I got the deal, the credit, and the satisfaction of watching an arrogant, sexist executive embarrass himself into irrelevance over an empty chair. The cost of his prejudice was $5 million worth of credibility. Justice delivered.